Hey guys, this is Adam Jones from London Perch Finder. Hope you're well. Thanks very much for tuning into another YouTube video. This is the third video in my lockdown sessions, kind of questions and answers that I've received over the past few months of having my channel. And I've decided to start doing a few videos in preparation for, at some point in the next 8 years, we get back out on the bank. I'm hoping we're going to get some information on the weekend, as I think a lot of us are. I'm not sure that's necessarily going to happen, but I'm hoping that we're at least going to start seeing a bit of a roadmap, for want of a better phrase, but it seems to be the word at the moment, of how we get from where we are now to being able to get back out and do things like fishing, golf, you know, all of those other outdoor activities that at the moment we're not allowed to do. So that's the first thing. I hope you guys are well. I hope you're safe and well. I hope you're having a good weekend. And thanks again so much for watching my videos. Thanks for liking and subscribing and commenting and engaging generally. I'm so humbled that you're enjoying watching them, even half as much, like I've said before, as I enjoy making them. I just really hope that I can start making some actual fishing videos again soon on the bank, because that's what I love to do. I love to be out like we all do. So fingers crossed. Today's video is going to be about BFS in general, my BFS setups, and kind of what I've got in the bag. First thing I want to say is, you know, like I've said in a few of my videos, this is what I do. I fish this way. You don't have to fish this way. You don't have to use reels that I use. There are so many different price brackets of things that you can use. And you can fish everything that I fish on fixed spool setups, and I have and do. So don't feel like this is the way, the only way. None of this is the way. We all fish how we fish. We're fishing because we want to put a smile on our face, put fish on the bank, connect with nature, and you can do that pretty much on a bamboo pole if you wanted to. I wouldn't, but you could. So yeah, that's the first thing. And it's so cool to see so many people out there getting into BFS, baitcaster fishing in general, on so many different budgets and different versions. And yeah, it's just it's really awesome that we're all starting to get into it, because the more that we get into it, the cheaper that it's going to become, because those bigger brands are going to invest more money into BFS as a market, because there's more of us doing it, and you know, these amazing reels get cheaper and cheaper for the quality that you get in that current price point. So yeah, that's the first thing. And like I said, there are loads of options out there on the market. If there's any questions you've got specifically about things that you've seen, drop me a message. I personally, as you guys know, I've got Older Baron BFS XGs, I've got a Daiwa Steez Air TW, which is a naughty present to myself at the moment. These reels are obviously at the more premium end of the market. That's because that's what I decide to save up and buy. I've always been the same in fishing. I've always wanted the kind of the gizmo and whatever, and I've saved for years, even for when I was a kid and buying, you know, my Kingfisher rods from Argos. It was always, you know, just save an extra fiver and see what I can get. And that's the way that I've kind of come to this as well. The other thing to point out, and again, I get loads of messages about, you know, you don't need to fish on a Shimano Older Baron BFX XG. I've just bought the same reel on AliExpress. It's a copy. Cool, go for it. It's not the same reel. They're two very different things. I choose to invest in the company that's innovating, spending their R&D budget on making better and better and better reels incrementally over time, because that's how it works. The Abus, the Daiwas, the Shimanos, I'm not being paid to say anything about these reels. It's just the way that I choose to do it. But you can find reels that have versions of this and will cast low for much, much cheaper. My experience of watching a lot of my mates start off like that because they didn't want to kind of go in and spend the money straight away, which I understand. They've ended up upgrading later on down the line anyway, so it can end up being a bit of a false economy, but that is just my opinion, and it's purely because those are the questions I get about various kind of cheaper options on the market. So it's also about trust, and I just trust that my Older Baron is going to get me out of every situation, from £22 pike to £4 PB perch, and that's just my opinion. So what am I fishing? I'm fishing generally major craft rods. I've got a St. Croix Legend Tournament bass as well. My first BFS rod was my Speedstyle 642 UL BF, which I bought from Topper Manor 2.5 years ago when I started getting into BFS generally. And my addiction has grown from there. So I've got a Speedstyle in the UL 642 UL, so 6'4", 2-piece. UL Bait Finesse Blank. I've got the same code in a 2-piece L, which is the light blank with more backbone in the center. And then I've got a MSX Limited 1-piece, which is my kind of present to myself in that top end side of the market. And then since obviously working with Major Craft, I've bought a Benki and a Days so that I can give you guys an idea of what those rods are like. The Benki being the kind of the more baseline model in the Major Craft range. I don't like to use the word budget because this is definitely not a budget rod. Feels like quality. It's not as sensitive as an MSX or a Speedstar when I bought it, but it does exactly what it says on the tin. It's going to get you through all of your perch, pike, canal, kind of finesse baitcaster fishing, and it's an awesome stick. So yeah, I've got the Days, like I said, and I've got a video on one of my 4-pounders this year. I actually caught on the first time I took the Days out, so I've got a bit of a soft spot for the Days. And then in the top end of my weight range, generally I fish mostly finesse, as you guys know. This is my Legend Tournament bass from St. Croix. It's a 6'10", medium light power. It's the 610 MLXF. MLXF rather, 3.5 grams to say 14 grams. So I'll use that if I want to throw heavier weights on faster flowing rivers, or as I start doing a bit more reservoir work, further down the year and into the winter, then I'll be using that rod a little bit more. So those are the rods that I've got. I've also touched base in my last video on my trout setup, so I won't go into this too much, but these rods are specifically for throwing the much lighter weights, designed for trout, parabolic bending action, and some really, really kind of fun rods to have. I fish this when I'm wasping on the canal in the summer, just to make it fun, really. They're really light rods, parabolic bend, and can be really good fun for catching perch on tiny little jig heads, goalpost, jumpers for goalpost type fishing, and tiny little perch. So those are my rods. Like I said, if there's any questions that come up that you want to know, please just drop me a message specifically. I can't go into the details on every single rod, but more than happy to do that. If you guys are looking at them, just send me a question. In terms of the reels, I've got my Aldebaran BFS XG, like I've said. I've just bought the Daiwa Steez Air TW, which is the kind of latest high-end Daiwa that's just come out. It's a very naughty lockdown present to myself, and it probably wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the fact that we were stuck inside looking on the internet as much as we are. I'm sure all of you guys have felt the same with lures and jig heads, and it's been great for filling my boxes, but it's not been great for my bank account. Those are my kind of pure BFS reels, so sub 3 grams. And the beauty of something like the Aldebaran is I love that I can fish this kind of 1.5 grams right the way through to 10 or 12 grams, like I would with a fixed spool ultralight setup. And that was what I wanted from BFS. I wanted to be able to fish for, perch in the morning, trout in the afternoon, zander on the way home, different weights, and just the same rod, the same reel, the same leader in most cases, and just clipping on different jig heads and weights and all of that stuff. So that's what those reels do for me. As you guys have probably seen in my earlier video, I've got an Abu Garcia Roxanne BF8. This is a power finesse bait caster and will comfortably cast 3.5 grams and up, and slightly lower once you get used to the spool and how this reel works. It's more than half the price of an Aldebaran, for example, and for most of your perch, pike, chub, canal work, 3.5 grams plus. On one of these BFS rods, this will do 100% the job, 100% of the time. You'll have great fun with it. You'll catch awesome fish, and it just goes to show that you don't need to go down the BFS reel option and cast 1.5 grams. If that's not the way you fish, don't do it. Even in the budget side, you can find really good, high quality bait casters from the likes of Abu Garcia, Luz, Daiwa, Shimano, that sit in the kind of £150 bracket. And I've just picked up from Top of Manor the Voltum BF1, which has just arrived in from Japan. It's I would say a power finesse bait caster. It markets itself as bait finesse, but I think more in the 4 gram plus range. I haven't had a chance to test it yet. The reason I've got it is, and stick it in the comments if you're interested to find out more about it, is I wanted to see what it can do. So that when people are asking me the question, I can give you guys as an honest an opinion as I possibly can. So I will be doing more on this. This is the Volton BF1. I've already flicked kind of 4 grams around on a rod in the living room. I know that the spool can handle it, but I want to give this a more in-depth look as time goes on. But yeah, that's the Volton. And in terms of the baits that I'm throwing on my bait casters, and this goes to when you're going to buy a bait caster, it's remembering that plastic has weight. I'm not teaching you to suck eggs, but it's something that I think a lot of people, when they ask me questions, don't necessarily think about. This is a 3 gram jig head, and like a micro jig head that we've all used for perch. Obviously, by itself, 3 gram. If I put this shad on this jig head, I'm probably casting 4, maybe a bit more grams, probably a bit more. So it sits more in the kind of power finesse bait range. Yes, it's probably going to be more difficult to cast those lighter weights on those reels than a reel like this, where it's going to be right in the middle of its range and it's super easy to cast. But there are so many options on the market. It's kind of what I'm trying to get at. So as you guys know, I fish a lot of the Ned Rig with various Seaman kind of TRD baits. Those setups are probably 6 or 7 grams and could comfortably be cast on the power finesse setups. The stuff that I really get the use out of a BFS reel, apart from obviously the feel and the drag and the castability and the ease of use that comes with one of these kind of more high-end reels, I can cast 1.5 gram. There you go, 1.5 gram trout spoons. I can cast 1.5 gram tiny jig heads with really small little kind of bug patterns for trout, for chub, and kind of wasping, and do everything that I want to do. This is a 2 gram Major Craft Zona minnow. I can do everything that I would want to do on a fixed spool ultralight setup with my BFS setup. And for me, that's how I look at it. I want to be able to throw 2 grams, then pop on a 5 gram Texas weight and add bugs and throw that at probably 9 grams, and do everything with the reels that I've got. So yeah, that's my BFS setup. If you've got any questions that come out of this video specifically, please drop me a message on here, drop me a message on Instagram. More than happy to discuss stuff. Like I said, there are so many ways to do this. This is the way that I do it. It's the way that I've done it from the beginning. And I absolutely love throwing baits, all baits on bait casters. I just love the way that the reel sits above the rod. The kind of center of gravity of the whole casting process is very, very centered. It feels like an extension of your hand. It is different to casting a fixed spool setup, but like I said, you can do everything on a fixed spool setup. This is just something interesting and fun that I've kind of got addicted to. So yeah, like I said, if there's any questions, let me know. I hope that's a good video. I hope it's been interesting, and I'll speak to you guys very, very soon. Like I said, please like and subscribe. Please check out my other videos, and I'll try and make another video over the next couple of days. Cheers. Bye.